Hey everybody, it's Joel Schaub along with Danny Glick.
Hey everybody, how are we doing?
We wanted to take a few minutes today and just give you a market update and talk about some real life examples of things that we're seeing so that we can add some value to you in these uncertain times. So I kind of set it up as a Q&A. Danny's got a couple of questions for me as a lender, and then I have questions for him with all of his years of experience. So let's just dive right into it. Okay, Danny?
Sounds good. Sounds good. First and foremost, I just wanted to find out from a lending perspective what you're seeing and what you're doing to acclimate to this new environment.
Well, one of the things that we're seeing, not just at my company, but across the mortgage industry, is the revolution of having digital closings.
Yep.
And digital closings have always been there, but last year it was one of these things where people were saying, oh, that's cute, and we were kind of doing them, and to now, oh my gosh, you guys are the ones that are doing flash close. How do we get in on that? Because nobody wants to go physically sign documents at a title company or have docs brought to their home for a refinance. So being on the cutting edge of this has really helped out a lot.
Yep, and as you know, we recently had a closing last week. Joel did an unbelievable job, everybody, with some clients that I had that were doing a closing literally in the midst of the first shelter-in-place order. So when there was a lot of chaos, we got unbelievable support and unbelievable direction. And maybe I'll try and post at some point in the future the photos of my clients literally signing papers in their on the dashboard of their car. Do you want to talk a little bit about the role of notaries and getting wet signatures versus not, and how that's transforming in real time?
Sure, Danny, of course. With the evolution of what we were seeing even last year with digital signatures, this has been something that people can put into place pretty easily on most closings. Okay, so let's just walk through what it would be like before this pandemic, what's happening now, and what I think for the future. Okay, so before this, clients could literally sign 90% of their closing documents, view those closing documents, and do it all from the comfort of their home the day that they close, and only go into the title company and sign 7 or 8 documents at the closing with the notary. And it's finally brought agents back to the closings. Remember, you would never want to go because it was like 3 hours and
Right.
So I'm getting all these agents now that know a guaranteed rate closing can be 30 or 40 minutes, and then you're there with your clients. And so that's what flash close allows us to do. Okay. Then people say, I don't even want to go into the title company now, right? I'm a little bit nervous, and rightfully so. So title companies have stepped up and said, we'll
Absolutely.
do curbside closings. And that's what we had last week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really unbelievable because literally, my clients stayed in their car. Between their attorney and the closer, they would run out documents, get signatures on the items that they still needed to get wet signatures for, and then send those back inside, and everybody was safe and coronavirus free. And at the time that was the best that we had, and now it's even evolved even more, so that some of those signatures can now be gotten in advance as well. Correct?
Right. Can you imagine doing the whole damn closing package in their car? Like, it wouldn't have worked, right? And you know what closings are. It's 50 or 60 pages. So
Right.
flash closing will allow them to do a bulk of the work, over 90% of the documents in advance,
Right.
than just the signatures there or in person. And now they're going forward where they could actually do remote notaries physically on the screen. They can physically show their IDs. You don't get the keys, so there's still got to be a way to physically get that part done.
Sure.
But we're moving full steam ahead. We've had a couple last week where the buyers didn't physically go anywhere. They went screen by screen, just like we have here, and they were able to do a closing that was legal and accepted in the state of Illinois.
Is your sense that some of this, obviously it all came out of, this pandemic. Do you sense that some of these practices will become the norm going forward?
Yes and no. I don't think there's going to be a big push for people just to stay at home and not sign their closing documents. Okay.
Mhm.
What I feel is going to happen is that we're getting it to a point where signing online, they did it already with the mortgage application and process. So signing at closing isn't that big of a deal to do it that way. But I still don't think we're going to get to a point where people just don't physically go into title companies. I just don't.
Right, right. Okay, it's good to know. What's amazing, I think, and you're seeing this, I'm certainly seeing this, is all of the all of the processes in real estate are still changing. It's very dynamic. It's changing, week to week, day to day, and so it's you've been great, and I just it's been fantastic to have the support and the knowledge, and being led in the right direction.
Well, it comes from years of doing it, just the education piece, and you do the exact same thing. You're really truly there for your client, and you want to put them in the right position. And so, I have a question for you as far as, do you see that, like, say a property that went under contract? Do you have any like real proof that maybe the purchase price that somebody agreed to is considerably less now because of everything that's going on, or are they kind of holding their own?
Uh, we haven't seen the type of volatility in the real in a property value in the way that I think people are seeing, like the stock market. So and that's been, I think, the biggest fear, throughout this process and in the closings that we've had in the past 2 to 3 weeks, is we saw, major drop offs in the stock market, and buyers were fearful. The stock market went down 10%, 15%, 20%. Does that mean my property value is now decreased by that much? And generally speaking, property values and markets, markets like the stock market, don't don't they don't they're not as volatile. They're not as volatile. I mean, usually there's a lag, and for the most part, property values, it takes a longer period of time. It's a bigger ship to steer.
But the fears are there, right?
The fears are there, and with the recent closing that we had, um, we were seeing a major drop in stock prices. And I'll share with everybody, my client was buying a property that was $1.5 million, and literally almost walked away from the deal because the rationale was, hey, if the stock market is dropping 10 or 20%, and on $1.5 million purchase, I'm buying something, and the day I buy it, or 5 or 6 months after I buy it, it's down 20%, and I paid $1.5 million for a property, and now it's worth $1.2 million. Am I better off just not buying the property at all? And so those are the kinds of fears, and they're founded. If I always say to people, if you feel something, it's real. So the fear is real. The data, I think the data didn't really support that, and we were able to step him through, and also talk about a reasonable exit strategy. Were it the case that he purchased and then for whatever reason needed to sell.
I was really impressed with you as an agent as far as the way that you took the time to answer the questions. And we didn't have all the answers, but the way that you did it showed me that this would be the guy that I would want if I was buying a property. You literally took the time. We scheduled
Thanks.
three-way phone call. No, but it's true. A lot of people are just in it to make the sale, and you do something completely different, and that's to be applauded. And do you have an approach that you use as far as just the way that you don't want to lose that transaction, but something else was leading all these conversations? Just touch on that here real quick.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, you and I have both been in the business a long time. Our job is to make sure our clients have the perfect transaction. So our client is always at the forefront of every decision that we make. every suggestion that we make, every concern that we express, every recommendation. It is all in service of the client. I say to my clients all the time, if you're thinking that anything is about Danny Glick or our group or whatever, probably is about the client. And that's why, that's why we have, and you have this as well, we have long-term relationships. Whether or not he was going to buy a property, if he had backed out of this deal and rented for the short term, I would have helped him with that. And if he would have needed to buy in a year or 2 years, or after, this whole coronavirus pandemic is over, the trust and confidence that he felt from us would be rewarded then. So that's just how we roll.
So the moral of the story is, if we went under contract in February to something at $1.5 million, is it worth $1 million today?
No, it's still, you still have your value.
Right.
You still have your value.
Okay, let's switch gears here real quick, and I just want to know what you're seeing as far as showings and listing activity, because it's changed, right? Are we seeing a complete halt, or what are you seeing as far as buyers that you're working with?
So we're not seeing a complete halt. Yesterday was Sunday. I had 2 showings yesterday. I talked to another agent today, and she's had a showing on a property 4 out of the past 5 days. It definitely has tapered off. So I mean, we were in, the kind of the meaty part of the spring market. So it was mayhem and craziness, and then it came to a screeching halt. But there still is activity, and we're finding ways both to satisfy sellers in terms of showing properties. So we can still do a physical showing. We can still show up, and I had one yesterday with gloves on and my mask and all the things that we need to do, and we're asking the right questions of the people that are coming into the property and keeping our distance and so on. We're also using technology, so we're doing a lot more video tours. I recently downloaded an app called Hyperlapse, which allows me to do a whole walking video tour of a property, and I can send it out an email to someone. Matterport is a great tool that's been used for a while, and I think you're going to see an increase in that. And then I'm a firm believer that even FaceTiming with an agent or with a client, I'll tell you something that's interesting. I have a showing coming up, and the agent is actually giving me their client's phone number, direct phone number, which typically is a little break in protocol. But I'm actually going to call the client, FaceTime with them. And the one benefit that I think is great about doing that is, as you're walking through a property and you're opening up doors and you're showing rooms, someone can say to you, hey, do you mind showing me that closet again? Or do you mind, I want to see how big that pantry is, or whatever it is. And so they can get questions answered in real time, which is just about as good as being there.
So before we close, what is the opportunity? What do we see right now? If I'm watching this video and I want to contact you, what is something that either short term or even in the next 6 months, where's the opportunity?
Well, I do think there's an opportunity for investment properties. I think there will be some people who are going to feel the pinch, some investors who are going to feel the pinch of renters, even though there's this stimulus package. And renters, hopefully, that are renting properties will be able to support their rental obligations. I do think there are going to be some opportunities in the multi-unit market, and I still also think for a lot of properties that have either sat on the market, you may see some slight adjustments. So I think those are good things to look for. Properties that have come on that don't have long market times, I still think they're healthy. And I still think the market is healthy, but I do think you'll have to look for little nibbles of opportunities as a result of this.
So there you have it, folks. Rates are still low. You could get 30-year fixed rates at 3.5 or below. You could get 15-year fixed rates at 2.75 or below in most circumstances. And then the market isn't coming to a complete halt. The sky isn't falling. We're always here to provide value, and we want to make sure that you guys got something out of this today. Danny, thanks so much.
Joel, thank you guys. Please note we are here 24/7. We have not stopped working. We're suiting up every day. Joel takes calls until the wee hours of the morning, as do I and my team. So thank you, and we look forward to being in touch soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.